morning and welcome to the Red Net Show, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon. I'm your host, Jay Edgar, and Elaine is running still a little bit behind here, so I'm not sure where she is going off on this, but I do have the call up ready to go, but I saw people sitting in here waiting, and we had to get started without her here. And she's got a good reason for this, and I understand, and I always say the family comes first, so I will make the adjustment as needed, and we will catch up with her when she gets back in here. But until then, we can go ahead and get started with the peddling of the wares and everything else that goes along with this here. So thank you everybody who came by and hung out with me for here while we're getting started here, and everybody who's going to be coming in through the rest of the program. Looking definitely forward to seeing some of your live chats and going along with this here. So, well, I guess I don't have anybody to bounce any ideas off of, so let's just get right into it. We have got a bunch of stuff to get to today, definitely. It's been a busy week. We've got a lot to go over here, and it's been nuts. We're actually going to get some closure this week, because we're going to see what's happening at the end of the Israel-Gaza conflict, so that's definitely going to be something to see here. That's really surprising me, but yeah, it's everywhere. The House of Representatives has come up with a bill concerning the Capitol Selfie Fest that we saw last year. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on with that and what is coming in here. It looks like it's probably going to get blocked, but even still, the fact that the House of Representatives is allotting money to go back and do an investigation that the FBI has been doing for weeks and weeks and weeks at this point, it's insanity to me, the fact that they're going to continue going along with this. So we'll talk a bit about that. As I mentioned at the top of the show here, Israel and Hamas have come to a ceasefire, so we'll talk a bit about some of the lead up to there. Some of the politicians who have decided to make careers off of calling to there's Elaine right there. Hang on just a sec, let me get her in here. Yeah, we'll talk just a bit about some of the politicians who are making careers out of saying that we shouldn't be selling arms to any of these people, and we'll go from there. Hello, you have made it in. I had to start without you because we had people waiting in the waiting room here.
That's
so
fine.
let me get your screen up here so everyone can see your smiling face.
I do have a question though. Do you hear a low hum in the background?
I don't, but that doesn't mean
Okay.
that it's not coming out there, because it might be coming up off my side. So
Okay. If you hear it, let me know and I'll adjust my microphone, but I had to turn on the air conditioning unit that is up here because it gets super hot.
oh no, I don't hear that. I thought you were saying that there was something coming in from my audio side.
Nope, just wondering if there's like a low hum in the background because it's across the room over there.
Well, that's what we got. Nope, you are absolutely good. So, going on with that, yeah, how was your week otherwise?
Pretty good. I got my first sunburn of the season.
Yeah, I saw that over on the Instagram side. But your garden's coming in. Looks like that's coming in nicely. I got some good tomatoes coming in. I'm gonna have tomatoes like crazy, and I don't even eat tomatoes, but I'm gonna have them like crazy this year. It's like they all came in at once.
Already?
It looks like it. I don't have any tomatoes, but all the plants are just popping up like crazy. So
Oh, good. Yeah, it's time for me to get mine in the ground.
anyway, yeah, I was just going through everything here that we're going through this week. We were talking about the Israel and Hamas ceasefire. The Supreme Court has got a couple updates. It looks like they're going to take up a case involving Roe versus Wade, but it also looks like they've come to a decision that it is unlawful to enter a home and seize property without a warrant. So this could actually be very, very good for people who are against red flag laws. So we'll talk a bit about that. The Biden admin is set to relax some sanctions against the Nordstrom Pipeline. So we'll talk a bit about what that means going forward. Epstein definitely didn't kill himself, but that doesn't mean that the guards aren't going to make off with a plea deal and admit that they falsified the record. So we'll talk a bit about there. Did you see this Mcdonald strike this week?
I did, yeah.
A bunch of McDonald's decided, and this was only in a few cities, but even still a bunch of McDonald's workers decided to strike on franchise stores, so we'll talk a bit about the details there and who famous got in with that. The child tax credit is going to start distributing this week, so we'll talk a bit about what's happening there, and some mask stuff is going to be in order, and we're going to have to talk a bit about that as well. So plus, I got some surprise stupidity once again to end it out. And this is going to involve taxes this week, so this is going to be your absolute favorite subject. So we will talk a bit about that. It's going to be all that and more over on the Red Net Show. Thanks for joining us over on YouTube, DLive, Twitch, Periscope, and both of our Facebook pages. And if you want to come back and check us out on demand, you can't catch us all the way live through the entire show. You can find us back on demand over on YouTube and over on BitChute.com. Until I get myself 40 lashes and start actually dealing with the audio platform, I'm not going to promote it anymore because I have not caught up with it. But we did just pass 1,000 downloads on there, so I know we've got interest in there. So I will go ahead and keep that moving as well. So once I get that caught back up, you can catch up with us back over there as well. But that's bad on me for not doing that. And yeah, other than that, you can go take us on demand anywhere else that you want to go. Well, we got a bunch of stuff to get into. And our lightning round is actually going to be a little bit long this week just because there was so much that was happening there. But let's get into this, shall we? We got to start off with a little bit of breaking news from just this morning. Belarus has condemned a hijacking of a Ryanair airplane to detain a journalist. So this was a little bit of a wacky story, and I still don't know where all this goes. I was hoping to have some details on this today, but it looks like the Ryanair flight from Athens to Vilnius was, they got an emergency declaration, and they had to turn around and fly back into Belarus, where a journalist was promptly arrested. He and his girlfriend were both promptly arrested as they got off the plane. And now the question is whether or not they actually redirected the plane there just so they could arrest the guy. Have you seen any of this today?
Yeah, I have. I've been following it from a distance for a little while.
Okay, what is your take on this so far with what we've been seeing?
I mean, Belarus is a former Soviet bloc country, and I feel like Russia still has a lot of tentacles wrapped around the capital city and the government in Belarus. So This is really not that surprising to me.
Yeah, and I mean, not every country has our freedom of the press, but that's not even being all that free anymore. But they don't all have that over there, so they can get away with some pretty shady shit in some of these places. So This is one that we will probably be talking about in more detail next week as more details come out with that. So, but it was breaking, so I thought we should at least talk a little bit about it here.
Absolutely.
Another breaking one that happened just, it was this morning for us, but it was afternoon for the people in England. A Black Lives Matter activist is in critical condition after being shot in the head in London.
Wow.
British BLM activist Sasha Johnson is in critical condition after being shot in the head in London, according to her political party. It is with great sadness that we inform you that our own Sasha Johnson has been brutally attacked and sustained a gunshot wound to her head. The Taking the Initiative party said in a Sunday statement she is currently in intensive care and in critical condition. So it looks like there was a gunfire in southeast London at 3 a.m. local time Sunday morning. She is alive. She's in critical condition. Does not look like we have any details as to the who, the what, or the why. But I believe the suspect is in custody at this point. So another one we'll probably be talking about in a bit more detail next week.
But I'm shocked.
Why?
Because they outlawed guns, and that totally solves gun violence.
I kind of figured that's where you're going to go with that. One that we do have some details on here from CNN. Once again, my top three are from CNN, which scares the shit out of me here.
We should have reordered them.
New York Attorney General adds criminal capacity to probe of the Trump organization. So they've been going through a civil suit on the Trump organization in New York. They've been going through that for a while. They've been going through that since he was still president. But now they've added criminal elements to this. And of course, you see a headline like this and all the anti-Trump people are out there screaming, "He's going to prison, he's going to prison." And for the most part, it looks like it's just tax evasion or whether or not he valued his properties properly to avoid paying some taxes. And it's probably going to be a fine and restitution.
Probably.
Not only that, I can't think of a single building in New York that hasn't done that at least once.
Exactly.
And he can probably tattletale on a lot of people at this point too. So this is probably going nowhere. But it made a good headline and it got a lot of people outraged because now they can say, "See, he's a criminal." All right. Got some Biden news this week. Notre Dame commencement goes ahead without Biden after a backlash.
What?
So apparently, since Biden is only the second Catholic president in history, which actually surprises me, I don't believe that, but apparently that's the statistic that they keep telling us here, that he was only the second. He was supposed to
It's
give
true.
commencement. What's that?
It's true.
It is. It's still surprising though, because that's one of the most common religions in this country.
Yeah, maybe.
He was supposed to give remarks at the commencement at Notre Dame, and he got a strongly worded letter saying that they didn't want him there because of his stance on abortion and many of the campaign promises that he made over abortion. And he mysteriously also had a scheduling conflict after the backlash came in.
Interesting. I mean,
According,
of all of the things that they could like, okay, so since it's Notre Dame, I can see why that's the thing that they picked to criticize on him,
Mhm.
or to criticize him for, and
Yeah.
not want him to come. But I have a feeling that there are going to be a lot of commencement speeches he is not invited to.
Oh, how so?
I don't think he's kept a single one of his campaign promises.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of that over the next 4 years or however long it is that he survives, but
I mean, I never really expect presidents to keep their campaign promises to begin with, but
yeah.
he tried real hard to convince people that he was going to do some things after he got elected. And then the turnaround afterwards was startlingly quick.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of a neocon thing, too. They promised the moon on the stick to everybody, and then all of a sudden, oh, well, we didn't have the budget of those evil Republicans and this and that and the next thing. I mean, granted the fact that Don tried. He did, and he failed, and he got stymied a lot, too, but he did try.
Yeah.
A lot of these
It's
other
just
people
so-
don't seem to try.
It's just so funny to me that there could be that the same college that produced Amy Coney Barrett
Mhm.
was considering inviting Biden to speak.
Yeah.
Because those are two vastly different worldviews,
They
even though
are.
they're both Catholic.
Yeah. Speaking of Biden, did you see this bizarre instance that he had at the Ford factory this week?
Aren't all of them bizarre?
They are. But this and the photos that went around with this are kind of amazing too. But apparently, he got up and he talked. He was asked a question about Israel and Palestine, and he told the reporter that he would only answer it if she would stand out in front of the truck. Let's have a listen to what this sounded like.
Quick.
How's it drive?
How does it feel?
Will you buy one of these?
I would.
How does it feel to be behind the wheel, sir?
It feels great. I tell you what. Now, I don't know if anybody has a stopwatch, but I think if we're going 0 to 60 in about 4.3. 4.4?
Right.
4 flat?
Well, we haven't released it,
Mid-forward,
President.
mid-forward.
I should be quiet.
Mr. President, how fast were you going?
Well, okay, I'm just going to step on it. I'll come off at 80 miles an hour. You'll see what it is, okay? You ready?
Mr. President, can I ask you a quick question on Israel before you drive
No,
away?
you
since it's
can't.
so important?
Not unless you get in front of the car as I step on it. I'm only teasing. Okay, here we go. You ready?
See it, sir.
That's something that doesn't usually fly when somebody says that as a public official.
Wow. Okay, then.
So Biden was, and they actually pushed this forward because this wasn't supposed to get unveiled until next week. Biden was driving the new all-electric F-150, which I was to the understanding that presidents are never supposed to drive again because of the
They are
safety implications.
never supposed to drive themselves again.
But it is on a test track, so I think that's where they were able to make the exception for this because it was
I
in the
think so,
testing
too.
grounds.
Yeah,
But
because
yeah.
it was a closed facility.
Yeah, but just that remark. Yeah, you can ask the question or answer the. Yeah, you can ask the question only if you step out in front of the truck. Well, but I was only joking.
That was so weird.
Can you imagine?
He has such an odd sense of humor. Like, I don't. Who thinks that that is legitimately funny?
And furthermore, can you imagine how skewered any other politician in the world would be if they said the same thing? Any other politician. I'm not just going to say switch the parties and throw the random DeSantis or Trump or whoever that. Any other politician in the world
Mm-hmm.
would get skewered for saying that.
But no mean tweets.
Yeah, there you go. President Moon came and visited the White House this week, and he got greeted by a surprising politician. So let's have a listen to what that sounded like, and we'll talk a bit about what he was there for.
It is my honor to meet you, Mr. President, and I enjoyed very much our conversation before we came in this room. At a time when our world faces increasing threats to our health, security, and climate, it is more important than ever that the United States and the Republic of Korea work closely together.
생각합니다. 잠시 전에 저희가
Yeah, I don't understand why she is greeting all the world leaders for the first time, because isn't that usually the president's job on any other situation?
Yes.
In fact, if I was a world leader and the vice president came out to greet, I think I would be insulted.
Yeah, I mean, there's no excuse for that. Like, you know well in advance that these people are coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because of all the preparation, everything that has to be made with all this. It's not like, oh, he just popped by and he swung in and he knocked on the door and said, hey, I want to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
There's security and everything. It's not like if you and I went to have a photo op with the president where we just be, hey, I'm a tourist, I want a photo op, yay. This is days and days and thousands and millions possibly of dollars of preparation to just have Kamala Harris come out and do this. Now,
Yeah.
according to these... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's strange, and it really feels like to me that he's physically unable to complete these tasks on a day-to-day basis, that it's too much for him.
Well, he did speak with President Moon, but he didn't receive President Moon. That's the strange part off of this.
Mm-hmm.
According to the Associated Press, Biden and South Korea's Moon are deeply concerned about North Korea. President Biden on Friday said he and South Korean President Moon Jae-in remain deeply concerned about the situation with North Korea and announced he will deploy a new special envoy to the region to help refocus efforts on pressing Pyongyang to abandon its nuclear weapon program. And I'm just going to come out and say this. It ain't going to work.
No, it's not gonna work.
I think the meme holds true at this point, that Kim Jong-un is looking at this and saying, no, I don't like you. You bring back Orange Man with hot wife. But of all his faults, the man, because he put hotels all over the world, the man did know how to do business in Asian countries. He knew how to hold the strength, how to come off and call the line and call the bluffs and everything else off of that.
Mm-hmm.
But he also tweeted mean things. So
Yes.
they had a nice big conversation about that, and I don't think this is really going to go anywhere.
Probably not.
Let's grab another one here. After, in all the wake and all the fun of the Maricopa County audit, there's another one that's going to be coming up here in Fulton County, Georgia, as a judge rules absentee ballots can be unsealed. And this, I mean, reading this article here, this just screams of CNN trying to get out in front of the story to try and say that this is bad and this isn't going to do anything anyway, just like they did with Maricopa County. According to CNN, another ballot audit is set to move ahead in Georgia's most populous county after a judge ruled on Friday that absentee ballots could be unsealed for parties looking to examine them for evidence of fraud. The review of Fulton County's absentee ballots, which is not set to begin until the judge reviews the terms of the audit, comes as conservatives have clamored for election results in a number of states in the wake of former President Trump's November loss. The baseless belief, and this is where I start to think that they're getting in front of it, the baseless belief that there was widespread fraud has persisted among some Republicans despite the lack of evidence. And Joe Biden is the most popular president in history. Hong Kong. Where do you think this goes? I am a little scared of this.
I don't think I am.
Like, what happened? Do you know what happens if this actually does get overturned?
No, I don't. That's part of the problem, I think, is that a lot of people are confused and afraid of the unknown. They don't know what happens if the election gets overturned at this point. It's been over 100 days. What do you do?
Well, after the inauguration, the former president's term ends and he wouldn't be pulled back in.
Right.
And I think that Kamala, and I said this on Contemporary this morning too, that Kamala would be taken with him because she ran on the same ticket, which means that the chain of succession would fall to the next elected official in the chain of succession. Nancy Pelosi.
Ugh. Let's not do that. I don't want to see a President Pelosi.
I'm getting more and more scared that that's coming.
But also, I don't think she wants the job either. I think
How
she's
so?
very happy with her position in the Senate.
I could see that, actually.
I mean, because she's had a whole career in the Senate. And I'm sure that she intends to retire or die in the Senate. So, I mean, if she had higher political aspirations, she would have made overtures towards those much sooner than now in her life, in her lifespan.
Mhm.
Like, I don't think she would ever run for president at her age.
I don't think she could run for president.
I think she probably could. I mean, she's more with it than Biden is, but
That's true.
that doesn't mean that she necessarily makes more sense, like from a policy standpoint.
That's
At least
also
not
not
to
really
me.
a high bar to clear.
Right. But, and sorry, earlier I said Senate, but I meant Congress. Like she's got such influence that I don't think she would give that up to be president, because as president, you are really limited in certain ways with the way that you can influence people. Like that changes because all of a sudden you have to deal with State Department matters, whereas when you're in Congress, you don't really deal with the State Department in the same way. You have to do the shaking hands and kissing babies, but you have to do it at a level higher than just a campaign. You have to do it with world leaders, which is a completely different ball game. And she gets thrown into that big fish in a big pond with other big fish, whereas now she's a big fish or bigger fish in a small pond with smaller fish, and she likes that a whole lot better.
I could see that. But the other thing that I could see with that, and I know that these people are all clamoring to get the immortality forever, and if she did make it in, she would in the history books as the first female president ever. Keep that in mind.
I don't think it's going to work. I think the Democrats would reject her. She doesn't have any, she doesn't tick any of their identity boxes that they like.
Yeah, but constitutionally, they wouldn't have a choice.
Right. But I'm just saying she would never run for president, and I don't think she
Right.
wants to be president.
Right. Did you see this tweet from Monica Lewinsky this week?
Yes, I loved it. It was
I
great.
laughed so hard. UberFacts tweets out, "What's the most high-risk, low-reward thing you've ever done?" And Monica Lewinsky replies, "With the eyes."
The googly eyes.
The googly eyes.
Honestly, like, she has her sense of humor about the whole thing is fantastic. And I'm sure she had to develop it as a trauma response from all of the negative press that she got. She just had to get thick skin really quickly. And that sucks. But I freaking love watching her on Twitter. She just lights it up over stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
that was amazing.
Like, I'm sure that whoever runs the Uber Eats Twitter account wasn't like, let's try to bait Monica Lewinsky with this. You know, like they weren't trying for that, but it happened and it was glorious.
Mayor Lightfoot made a declaration this week that she will only take interviews from people who are people of color. She will not have a one-on-one interview with any white journalists. Did you see any of this one this week?
Oh yeah. I shared it.
What was your take on that?
But
Or
it
give an
accomplishes
extra loaded
nothing,
up.
and it's basically racism.
Yeah. But, I mean, she's a Democrat. She can't be racist, right? That's what they keep telling me.
Bullshit.
You know, and we always hear the Democrats are the real racist thing. No, this is just, she's looking for people who are more likely to give her softball questions and, pander to her.
And this also puts pressure on the news agencies in Chicago of, if you want an interview with me, do not send me your white reporters.
Mm-hmm.
So that means they're going to pass over perfectly qualified white candidates that are applying for jobs and hire more minorities because of people like that who say, well, I'm not giving you an interview because you didn't send me a person of color.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid.
Exactly.
Absolutely stupid.
But our friend Tulsi Gabbard decided she was going to weigh in on this one here. Tulsi Gabbard tweets out, Mayor Lightfoot's blatant anti-white racism is abhorrent. I call upon President Biden, Kamala Harris, and other leaders of our country of all races to join me in calling for Mayor Lightfoot's resignation. Our leaders must condemn all racism, including anti-white.
I love her. I love
Say what
Tulsi.
you will on her and her socialism and her gun control and everything else. This woman is still an ally, and a pretty based one at that.
She is based. I have a friend who calls her coconut milk mama.
I call her coconut mommy too. So
Please stop. That is so offensive.
I shall not.
It's funny, but it's offensive.
Well, speaking of things that are offensive, on the other side, we still have to talk about Liz Cheney.
Why?
Of all things we have to talk about, we still have to talk about Liz fucking Cheney.
But
well,
why?
this time it's one of her challengers this week is doing this.
Yes.
So, from the Casper Star Tribune, U.S. House candidate Bouchard says he impregnated a 14-year-old when he was 18.
Ugh. That's so disgusting.
Victoria Evis writes, U.S. House candidate Anthony Bouchard had a relationship and impregnated a 14-year-old when he was 18. He told the Star Tribune late Thursday, hours after he disclosed the relationship in a Facebook Live video to his supporters. Bouchard, who did not specify the girl's age in the video, said he went public with the information to get ahead of the story after learning that people were investigating it in opposition to his candidacy. A Wyoming state senator since 2017, Bouchard has risen in prominence since announcing he would challenge Liz Cheney following her vote to impeach then-President Trump. Is there nobody else in Wyoming? And I realize that there are like 14 people in Wyoming, but is there nobody else there that they could run against her?
Tyler freaking Lindholm, also called the Crypto Cowboy. He's been in over 10 Forbes articles.
Your video froze up, and I don't know if your audio froze up too, but your video froze up. Oh, there you went.
There you are. You
All
missed,
right, yeah.
you missed me being very dramatic and saying who I would want to run for that.
No, we heard that, but you
Oh, okay.
weren't moving, but we had audio for that one.
Oh, okay.
But
Tyler
that's,
Lindholm.
I mean, he's coming out and he's trying to say that she was a little younger than me, so it's like Romeo and Juliet laws, or I'm sorry, it's like Romeo and Juliet story. And there
No,
are
it's
Romeo
not.
and Juliet laws, but this happened in Florida as well. So this, I mean, from what I can see, this is just some carpetbagging Republican who came up out of one state to go back and try and run in one that might have been a little bit friendlier to him.
No. Gross.
Yeah.
Sorry. No.
Well, that's what we have with that. I got one here from the Daily Wire. You'll love this one because I know how much you love lobbyists. Biden admin waives ethics rules for former lobbyists.
Ooh. Okay.
The Biden admin touted tight ethics rules for officials, but the president has since waived rules for several lobbyists turned officials, including former union official who now works for the agency that oversees the federal workforce and an immigration official who previously lobbied for Amnesty International. Records show. So the article gives a list of a few people who were lobbyists at one point who are now members of the Biden cabinet. I've got a Sharanya Krishnasamy, was brought on in February to serve as senior counsel to the Secretary of Homeland Security. In order for her to take the role, the admin granted Krishnasamy an ethics waiver for her previous work as a registered lobbyist on a slew of immigration issues at the left-wing human rights group Amnesty International. complying with the ethics requirements would result in serious limitations and inefficiencies for the department, acting White House Office of Management and Budget Director Robert Fairweather wrote in his February 9th ethics waiver for Krishnasamy. Let's see, there was another big one here. Alethea Prideaux serves as Director of Congressional, Legislative, and Intergovernmental Affairs at the Office of Personnel Management. Prior to her appointment, she lobbied on behalf of the American Federation of Government Employees. So that's a big conflict of interest. Celeste Drake, who Biden appointed to be to the newly created position of Made in America Office Director, which is based out of the OMB, was granted a similar ethics waiver. Drake previously worked for more than 8 years as a trade and globalization policy specialist for the American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations. So an AFL-CIO boss. So what's your take on this?
I don't know. Need
Swamp's
to
gonna
form
swamp?
thoughts.
Swamp's gonna swamp?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, even Donald Trump didn't follow through on his lobbying reforms.
No, nobody does, and people have a lot of money, and they get special rules for special people.
Yep.
And those of us who sit in front of a $20 webcam and a $20 microphone don't get those rules.
Of course not.
But you know who does get the rules? And this blew my mind when I saw this one here. Would you think that there would be such a group as Millionaires for Higher Taxes?
No.
From CNBC, millionaires who favor raising taxes on the rich launched protests in front of Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos' home on tax day. And that looked like this, with a truck with a billboard on the back that said, "Tax me if you can," with a picture of Jeff Bezos. Just reading briefly from...
So they want to
Go ahead.
make billionaires millionaires instead?
Well, the article says millionaires who have called on the rich to pay more taxes are launching protests in New York and Washington on Monday, which was tax day, including in front of Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos' homes. And they said homes plural. The effort is being organized by the Patriotic Millionaires, whose members boast annual incomes of over $1 million or assets worth $5 million. The details of the effort were first shared with CNBC. The group plans to launch its tax day campaign on Monday and includes mobile billboards that will make stops in front of Bezos' homes in New York and Washington. Leaders of the Patriotic Millionaires told CNBC they're organizing a group of up to 30 protesters to converge on Bezos' New York residence with a billboard that says, "Cut the bullshit, tax the rich."
They are rich, though.
Yes, exactly. And taxation is still theft.
You betcha.
Yeah. We talked about this a couple weeks ago when the rumors started going. Well, it's official at this point. Andrew Giuliani has launched a bid for 2022 for New York governor, officially.
It's Rudy Giuliani's son or grandson?
Son.
Okay. All right. I don't see New
Giuliani's-
Yorkers falling for that bullshit, but okay.
Giuliani says, "I'm a politician out of the womb. It's in my DNA." Giuliani versus Cuomo. Holy smokes.
That's a bug, not a feature.
Giuliani versus Cuomo. Holy smokes, it's Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier. We can sell tickets at Madison Square Garden, he said, referring to the famous 1971 heavyweight title prize fight. I am not convinced this is not Sidney Powell's kid either, by the way.
I haven't
Like-
seen a picture of him.
Like in the pictures that they have in the article that I have linked there, he doesn't smile, but when he smiles, I see that Sidney Powell grimace on his face. I'm convinced that that's Sidney Powell's kid.
Gross.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, I got just a few more here, then we will get into the big stories of the day. The Andrew Brown Jr. press conference came out. The deputies who fired shots at Andrew Brown Jr. will be reinstated and retrained, the sheriff says. So it looks like after the investigation, which, yes, that is the investigators investigating themselves, but it does look like the police officers were justified in the situation, as Andrew Brown Jr., trying to drive away, was trying to run down the police officers and possibly could have put other drivers on the road in danger. So there will be no more charges coming back up out of that, and the police will be reinstated. I don't know if you saw any of this week.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm like 50-50 on this one, and I haven't seen the video. This is one of those where I don't necessarily know if this one was in the right or the wrong. And I'm sorry, but the state has been very tight-lipped about this, and they don't have a lot of details out to the public either. So, I don't know. But this one's going to go down the memory hole too, I'm guessing. What do you think?
Yeah, probably. It doesn't fit the narrative.
Yeah, probably. Actually, that one fit the narrative quite nicely.
Which one was this?
The guy who was in his car and his family came out and said he was executed. This was Elizabeth City, North Carolina.
Okay.
They showed 20
The
seconds of
car
footage.
the car thing threw me because like right around that same time there was the guy that got shot in Louisiana and they also killed an infant in the car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That was
I remember
cool.
that one too.
I didn't remember that guy's name, so when you said car, I was like, is that the same one or not?
No. Let's see. I've got this one here from Como News. Tesla on autopilot slams into Snohomish County deputy's patrol car.
In
I don't know if
Washington
you-
State.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tesla on autopilot mode crashed into a county deputy's patrol car over the weekend, causing significant damage, sheriff's officials said. And yes, as you can see on the screen there, that was quite significant damage. Don't take your hands off the wheel, even if your car is on autopilot.
It's true. Or like, don't think you can not pay attention to it or just be like, look, no hands. Like, no, you still need to be right there.
Yeah, I mean, technology can only go so far. And automotive technology, and AI technology for that matter, only goes so far. It's impressive, don't get me wrong, but it can only go so far. So there's that. Doesn't look like anybody was hurt, seriously, so everybody's okay, just a bunch of property damage and somebody being really, really stupid. This one tickled my funny bone this week. Jill Biden said Harris could go and fuck herself for attacking Joe in primary debate, book claims from Breck Dumas.
Wow. Spicy.
First Lady Jill Biden had a strong reaction to now Vice President Kamala Harris attacking her husband during the first Democratic primary debate, reportedly saying that Harris could go and fuck herself after the then senator suggested her husband was a racist. Let me open this back up just a little bit more.
Well, to be
Harris-
fair, they both are.
Yeah, that's true. Harris told Biden in the June 2019 debate, "I do not believe you're a racist, and I agree with you when you commit yourself to the importance of finding common ground. But I also believe, and it's personal, it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two U.S. senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing," she continued, "and you know there was a little girl, and we've heard that story numerous times."
Yeah.
But yeah, DeVos reports that, according to multiple sources, Biden leaned over to fellow candidate Pete Buttigieg during the following commercial break and said, "That was some fucking bullshit." A week later, on a phone call with donors, Mrs. Biden weighed in on Harris's attack on her husband. With what he cares about, what he fights for, what he's committed to, you get up there and call him a racist without basis, the now First Lady reportedly said, "Go fuck yourself."
I mean, spicy. I like it. Go Jill.
Yeah. For whatever reason, I put that article in there twice. But, okay, I got one more here for you here. This is just a bit of a review on something we've talked about a bit before. But a growing number of Oregon counties want to leave Oregon. And now they're getting the vote on the ballot to do so. Now, I don't know what the procedure is of this, but if anybody has seen the Greater Idaho Project, let me get that up on the screen, it would look like this. Reaching into Oregon, I believe that reaches briefly into Washington State, or it skirts the line pretty tightly, whichever it does, and partially down into California as well,
Okay.
for some of Northern California counties. Looks like that is getting on the ballot at this point, so I guess the next question is how does that work? What does that do to Idaho, to electoral politics, and would Oregon and California relinquish the territory if it came up? What do you think?
It would be messy. I have yet to really see a good explanation of how that would actually work in a practical sense. If a state were to split, or if a state were to secede from, the country, not just create their own state, but I don't know.
One of the other ones that kept going up on this and kept being brought back up with this is what would happen to the people in the Greater Idaho Project if they went and joined Idaho. And Senator Michelle Stennett further noted that the minimum wage in Oregon is $11.25, is a whole $4 more than in Idaho, meaning that counties who flip would need to be agreeable to a pay cut for hourly workers. I got a feeling that most of the people who are getting ready to leave are taking that into consideration and don't care.
Well, and the other thing is that the taxes there are so high, but the taxes in Idaho are so low, so much lower, that even if you lost $4 an hour, you might still clear the same amount of money on your check, or close to it.
Now, come on. Do you think a Democrat senator would actually bring that up?
Of course not.
Taxation? Pfft, no, that's just the cost of living in a society. Don't you know that?
Whatever kind of society functions like that, I don't really want to live in it.
All right. Do you want to jump right into the Capitol Riot Commission, or do you want to take a little bit of live chat?
Let's take a little bit of live chat, because we already have over 100 messages.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I don't have the beginning part because I wasn't here for the first few minutes. But we have lots of friends here with us today.
Let me see if I can grab some of the beginning part. Breakdown with Birkenhoff says first is the best, second is the worst. Linda Cloud is here.
Hi, Linda.
She likes my t-shirt, apparently.
What's on your t-shirt? Fallout?
Yeah, the Vault Boy from Fallout.
I'm not even a gamer, and I knew that.
Breakdown with Birkenhoff says very busy week. Thomas Lindman says I have as much faith in Israel-Palestine ceasefire as I do convenience store sushi when the AC is on the fritz. I'm guessing Kurt Howard is on the right, or is on the wrong account. So Matthew Nelson says, why are libertarians so much more attractive than everyone else? And that seems to be where you have picked up in, because that's your comment of better late than pregnant. I know, because I didn't type it and it's in my account.
Yes.
So you want to catch up with them, and I'll set up some of the articles for the next segment?
Sure, yeah. Matt Nelson said, did you just say freedom of the press with a straight face?
I did. I managed to do that.
Thomas from Facebook said, Russia is being shady. Who saw that coming? Also, I do keep track of every time you say probe.
Nice.
Just so you know. We have
I'm
one
gonna say
tally
it
mark.
more.
We have one tally mark today.
How many tally marks do you have for me agreeing with AOC?
Well, none. But I did write myself a note that you did. I think I even sent it to you on Snapchat.
No, you sent it to me on Twitter after I
yeah,
did it again
okay.
for the second time.
Okay. I'll mark that down twice. Okay. Thomas also said brains are sexy. Oh, yeah. Libertarians are really smart. We get it. He also said, I heard Biden ask a Notre Dame rep, where's Rudy? That's good. That's an Indiana joke. That's a Hoosier joke. I got it.
I've only seen one Indiana Jones movie.
That's not the same thing. You guys, this man needs to watch movies. Like, he's not seen Rudy. He hasn't seen Hoosiers. He probably hasn't seen the Miracle movie about the hockey team. No. You can't make movie references to this man. He doesn't understand them. Ron says he's going to do some things. Wink, wink. He also has a new hashtag, Bizarre Biden. Thomas says vehicular homicide equals humor, question mark? And then everyone is talking about him having dementia. John says, literally, that is evidence of loss of frontal lobe inhibition. Ben says, hashtag tampons for Joe. I don't know what that means.
I don't want to know what that means.
I don't want to know what that means either. Ben, I'm not reading that second hashtag out loud. Amanda said, it's not strange if Biden is a puppet president and Kamala and Pelosi are actually the ones running things in the background. Which also kind of means that Pelosi doesn't need to be president, because if she's already doing it, then what's the point? Spartan says, Joe makes Trump look rational and dignified. I kind of agree. Ron says, the electric selected idiot coming to a Ford plant near you. Oh my God. Ben, I'm not reading that hashtag either. Stop. Ron says, no, they should seat Trump once they prove the election was stolen. I don't think they can.
No, you can't seat Trump anymore.
Right.
They can't even do a special election constitutionally.
Ben says, hashtag Pelosi is safe from brain-eating zombies. Spartan says, Monica was really great with Tom Green. Like, dating him? Or I don't know what that reference is to. Ron says, telling Linda Tripp is where Monica screwed up. Just saying. Agent 2159. Monica Lewinsky, America's intern. Thomas says, Bill Clinton is the embodiment of the reason we need phrasing in everyday life. Ben says his challenge to the Red and Ed show is to get Monica on as a guest. Okay.
You might be able to do that better than I do, because you do have some political connections. I can send the message out, but...
I mean, all it takes is a Twitter DM. Thomas says, easy fix to the Lightfoot situation, self-identify as Rachel Dolezal. Tulsi has far too much reason and logic to be a real Politico. Ben, yeah, you're right. Derek Morris suggests to check out Monica's interview with Jocko Willink, or was that Tulsi? Please clarify. Ben says he wants to move to Wyoming. Maybe we can vote him in. He says, I will do my best to make Jennifer Aniston the First Lady of Wyoming. First, she has to be interested and know that you exist. Then there was some discussion about Allison Hannigan potentially, because he was afraid maybe he was setting his sights too high for Jennifer.
Nice.
Thomas said, wait, didn't we hear a lot of things about how bad it was to let uninformed lobbyists run federal departments? Oh, wait, that was only bad under the last guy. Spartan says, Tulsi is also for legalizing prostitution, which is gross. Hard disagree. You can personally think it's gross, but
you don't have to buy it either.
They want with their own bodies.
That's my big thing. You don't have to buy it.
Yeah, you don't have to buy it. Nobody's saying you have to have one. Ron agrees with me. So, ha. Thomas says, Bezos made money during a pandemic because he built a better mousetrap. How is that bad?
He had a little bit of government help with that one, especially during the pandemic, because everyone was shutting down his competition.
We might have to do an episode, a special episode about why all of the things that Spartan is claiming about prostitution being evil and that a capitalist would sell his own daughter are incorrect, because currently there are no legal protections for anyone who is a sex worker to seek damages against someone who takes advantage of them. But if you legalize it or decriminalize it, then they do. There was more talk about that. Ben said, you know what's evil? Mayonnaise, and Celine Dion. I don't understand. No. Ron says, renting oneself should be legitimate. We prostitute ourselves to companies for money all of the time. Thank you. Literally construction workers. Same thing. You're literally using your body to make someone else money. But somehow it's not okay when it's sex. That's a problem. Spartan, that is also not true. Legal prostitution does not increase illegal sex trafficking and child abuse. I do not know where you're getting your information from, but it is all completely incorrect. Agent 2159 says, marriage is legalized, prostitution changed my mind. Ben says, you know, hookers sell happiness. What's wrong with that? And we're finally done with sex worker chat. Edward says, eventually cars will drive themselves. Yeah, they kind of do now. Thomas says, in Soviet Union, cars drive you. Ben, excuse me, it's Dr. Jill, go fuck yourself, Biden. She worked hard for that degree. Someone sold his appendix, apparently. Edward wants to know, would they become a new state? It was to become a new state, not to secede, right?
They wanted to give over counties into Idaho. So they wouldn't become a new state. They just wanted to join a different state.
Gotcha. Okay. Nephilium says, that's the best forests ever. If it becomes Greater Idaho, I'm going. Okay. The only reason I'm not moving there is because it's Oregon. Well, yeah. Thomas says the taxes are as high as the constituents. Huh. Agent 2159 said politicians sell their brains all the time. That's what's missing in government. True. We have a new guest, I think. Ploop. Do you think John Yu's legacy could provide a roadmap for the Biden administration in dealing with Trump supporters? I don't know anything about whoever that person is.
No, and that kind of sounds a little bit scary as well.
Yeah.
We don't do thought crime here.
No, we don't do thought crime. Also, we don't typically talk about those kinds of things. We only talk about news from the last week. Ron said he's surprised there's not a larger chunk of Western Washington state wanting to be part of Greater Idaho.
That could be.
Ben says, every time you say large chunk, I feel a little triggered. Yes, we are all disappointed in Ed's movie watching repertoire. I tell him all of the time.
It happens.
Edward says
I have seen the Mighty Ducks.
He's never seen Mighty Ducks?
I have seen the Mighty Ducks, but I was like 7.
Yeah, so it's one of like the 10 movies that he has seen. Spartan says Tom Green was doing a comedy in real life act with Monica. She was a great sport about him being weird. Well, Tom Green is very weird. Okay, we're all caught up.
All right. Let's talk about the Capitol Riot Commission that happened this week. So, this week the discussion started conveniently right at the end of the Israel-Hamas thing about starting a commission by Congress to investigate the origins and the beginnings of the Capitol riot, which I thought they did already, and it was the second Trump impeachment. And I thought the FBI did that already as well, but apparently Congress decided that they needed to do so as well. The details are a little bit shaky as to what's going to be in the commission. The vote actually passed 213 to 212 in the House, with, for the most part, the squad being the only defectors on all of this. AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, all defected on this. Some of them voted present, others voted no, because they believe that forming the commission on the Capitol riot would elevate and put more funding into the police, the Capitol Police, and they continue down their prospect of all cops are bastards. Does look like this will likely be filibustered in the Senate, and I don't think this is going anywhere. I think this is just a feel-good thing to come out and use for campaign promises, but I'm curious to see what you've seen on this one so far this week, because it's been all over the place.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with comments on Facebook, on the live stream, and other places. So, what am I supposed to have an opinion on?
Do we need to start from the beginning?
No, quick recap. I was listening. I just need the last sentence again.
So it looks like this past 213 to 212 in the House, with the members of the squad being the notable dissents, half of them voting no, and the other half of them voting present on the bill, because it would strengthen police, and they're completely against that.
Right.
And it looks like this is headed over to the Senate at this point, which it's likely going to get filibustered out. But what have you seen so far on the commission for the investigation of the Capitol riot? Wow, I can't talk today.
And I made you repeat it. I mean, I've seen a lot of different things, but ultimately, I don't really know. Beyond what's already being done, I don't really know what else they could do.
That's been the biggest part for me too. What else? Go ahead.
The only thing I feel like they could try with this is to point the blame again to Donald Trump. That, oh, he incited it, he encouraged it, whatever. But I still don't think that they would find any evidence that would be enough to charge him with anything. At least nothing that would stick, which means it's just a waste of taxpayer money at that point.
Mm-hmm. And on top of this, the other big thing that came out of this week is the fact that the House has approved, and this is the other one that's getting sent over to the Senate, the $1.9 billion Capital Defense Fund. That's also coming on over at this point, which, I mean, both of these are likely to go away in the Senate, because get 10 people on board with this on top of this, and give the fact that you've got dissent among the ranks of Democrats already in the House, that they don't want to see anything happen like this, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they don't want to strengthen police, so what would the bill be for? Improvements to reinforcing some buildings, doorways, security measures of some kind that don't involve police. Like, okay, but that's a lot of money to do those things.
Kevin McCarthy has actually been very notable on this one too, because they keep bringing him up off this, which, I mean, he's been standing against this from the start, and it looks like on both bills, both the defense bill and the commission bill, he has staunchly been opposed, and they've fallen on party lines. No, he wasn't able to get any Republicans to dissent and go in and vote for this, even though some of them were coming back up and saying that they were scared. Even some of the names that you would think, which is interesting. So, I mean, the FBI has done all this already.
Right.
They've been picking people up left and right, which I went on a rant about this, and I'll wait for that for just a second when we talk about some of what the FBI has been doing this week, but I just went completely off on that the other morning on Contemporary. I was pissed just based on that. But McCarthy has been very, very vocal on this, and people have been vocal against him. Like everybody's favorite new Democrat, Joe Walsh. Why would anybody ever vote against a commission to investigate what happened on the Capitol riots? Unless they were complicit.
Yeah, they love to throw that hyperbole crap around.
Do you think he was complicit?
Who?
Kevin McCarthy.
I doubt it.
And, I mean, one of the big things that goes with this is people on the Democrat side are suddenly in support of Mike Pence.
Weird.
because he was the one who was supposed to carry on the government-sanctioned official transfer of power and the counting of ballots and the ceremonious this, that, and the next thing. The biggest thing that's bothered me about this is the fact that they were back at work in like an hour.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If this was an insurrection, they wouldn't be back at work in an hour.
No.
And really, furthermore, if this was an insurrection, then the Capitol would not currently be in the hands of the same criminals it's been in the hands of for the last 50 years.
50? Only? Only 50?
I mean, Nancy Pelosi's only so old.
I mean, I was thinking at least LBJ.
He's dead, though.
True, but he contributed to it.
He did contribute. I mean, we could go back to Carter at that point. He's going to be around for a long time. That man's not going to die until the last guinea worm has been eradicated from the world.
You know who we should go back to?
Adams?
I'll give you 3 guesses, but you're probably only going to need 2.
Woodrow?
Yes!
It's like I know you.
By the way, I added removing Woodrow Wilson's name from every public school in America to my bucket list. And by remove, I don't mean like forcibly remove. I mean like convince them to change the name.
Yeah. The other one, I do want to go back and talk about this thing that I just went the fuck off on, because I can't believe that this is going on. So one of the big things that went off of this, this comes to us from Yahoo News. QAnon shaman lawyer issues shockingly offensive defense of client's role in the Capitol riot. And this has been going on and off with a couple different things off of this, where a lot of these people are coming out right now and basically confessing to crimes that I don't think that they committed. Now, there are people out there who are violent. Vincent James, the Red Elephants, was one of the notable ones, where he was forcibly banging on the door, beating things down and beating people up. There were people out there that were beating up police officers. But I said on Twitter, I believe Wednesday when I started seeing this, the fact that probably 90% of these cases that the FBI has picked up could be pled down to simple trespass, because I don't see anything other than simple trespass in this.
I don't know. I think it's different because it's federal building. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
it probably is a little bit different because it's federal buildings. But I mean, I've read Stevens' charges, the charging documents for him, and he is up there with charges of violently attempting to enter and interrupt a government process. But the magic of that is he was violently trying to interfere with a government process with a cell phone in either hand.
But were they really doing any work? I mean, let's be honest.
Well, it's a government process. They were counting votes. Do I have the video?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like saying that they're doing work is being generous.
Well, this video started circulating around last week in the midst of this, and this will go right before I go off and maybe do a mini rant of what I did the other day. But this video came out. The video was captioned with, "This shatters the narrative of a violent insurrection at the Capitol." I will let you listen to what was being said, and you decide if this shatters it or not. I don't think it shatters it, but it definitely throws some shade to it. You tell me what you think.
Everybody, listen up. The police here are willing to work with us and cooperate peacefully, like our First Amendment allows. Gather more Americans under the condition that they will come and gather peacefully to discuss what needs to be done to save our country.
One other or the other. We need a show. You understand? Then show us no attacking, no assault, remain calm.
We're not going to assault. We're going to be heard. Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This has to be peaceful. We have the right to peacefully assemble.
So what do you think? That was the Q shaman and the yellow sweatshirt guy that was next to him in some of the photos.
Interesting.
The second voice was, or the third voice rather, because the second voice was the Capitol Police officer. The third voice was the Q shaman.
Jake. His name is Jake.
Yes.
I don't know.
I really do think that the majority of the people that were in there intended to be peaceful.
I think so too. But I also know that groupthink affects a lot of people very strongly, especially in very emotionally charged environments like that. I think that's part of the reason why the BLM protests went completely sideways over the summer. I think it's the same reason that happened on the 6th. I think that groupthink just takes over, and people stop making rational decisions the way that they would if they were by themselves or with just 2 or 3 other people.
Right. And yes, there are definitely some people in that crowd that do need to be charged for violently attempting to assault the Capitol, assault people. There were people that need to be charged with assault at this point, but it's not going to be 90% of this. And that's, I'm going to be calmer today than I was on Wednesday, but that's where I was going with this, is that first and foremost, the fact that people like the Q shaman are coming out there and admitting to the fact that we only did this because Trump told us to do it, and they're trying to launch the Trump defense. Everybody who is launching the Trump defense deserves whatever comes to them, because a lot of them are confessing to a crime that they didn't commit. They were not violently assaulting the Capitol. They were not committing an insurrection. They were trespassing to redress their grievances. And all the lawyers who are advising them to throw Trump under the bus for this should be fucking disbarred. Because you don't have your client's best interest in mind at that point. You're coming in here to try and throw a narrative around.
Also, I don't know. I hate likening it to the founding just because that was leading up to war.
Yeah.
So if you keep likening things like this to, well, the founding fathers did this, well, the founding fathers did that, well, the founding fathers were okay with this, like they would have been stacking bodies or whatever. The more you do that, the more you encourage civil unrest. So if that's not really your goal, if your goal is just to apply pressure, you're doing it the wrong way.
Yeah, and I've never come out and said that. I'm one of the few people, and I've seen other people that said the founders have been stacking bodies. I've never said that we should be doing that.
Right.
Because that's not the direction we need to go in this. And you're right. I have seen a lot of other people come out to do this.
And that time may come. Like, that time may come where that is our option. But
that time might come in our lifetimes.
Exactly. But I don't think it's now.
So, the other one that came with this was this bizarre story that came from the Capitol Police. I'm going to read briefly from Politico here. An anonymous statement on Capitol Police letterhead, Royals January 6 Riot Commission debate. So apparently a statement was released on Capitol Police letterhead that's said to be authored by multiple officers on the force, delivered a rare public rebuke of top Republicans for opposing the proposed bipartisan commission to investigate the January 6 Capitol riot that injured scores on their force. The unsigned missive was sent to the offices of every member of Congress hours before the House was set to vote on legislation, creating the commission. Both House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, which they misattributed him in this article, he is the minority leader, technically, by technicality only, said this week they opposed the proposed panel, which they dismissed as an attempt by Democrats to politicize the investigation into the Capitol siege. Now, the Capitol Police have come out on this and said that this was not their doing, and that the Capitol Police do not weigh in on any legislative practices. They're there to act as security and security only. So the letter was anonymous at this point, and what do you think of this?
I really don't think that they're driving it. I think that it would be unwise to attempt to drive it because it's purely political.
Right.
And that would be that would just be unwise.
Well, that's all that I have on. Do you have anything else on the Capitol Commission?
No, I'm good.
All right. Let's take a second and talk about Israel and Hamas. This should actually be just a little bit quick because it's over. Israel and Hamas have agreed to a ceasefire this week. Looks like there's some unconditional surrender terms to this. Let me see if I can get some articles up to this so we can actually have some citation for some of this. Where is it? There it is. So, reading from CBS, just briefly here. Hamas lays down its conditions, and the missiles and rockets keep flying. So this was right before all this happened. Looks like, what do we have here? Hamas officials confirmed the group's negotiating position to CBS News on Wednesday, saying it would only stop launching rockets at Israel if two conditions were met, both pertaining to Jerusalem, that Israeli forces and police agree to never again enter the Al-Aqsa Mosque, as they did earlier this month, and that Palestinians living in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood in disputed East Jerusalem not be evicted by Jewish settlers from homes and their families have lived in since the 1950s. At the point that this article was written, there was no comment from Netanyahu, but it does look like the rockets have stopped. There is a ceasefire. We have some peace over there, and of course Joe Biden had to be the one to come up and say that he's taking credit for this. So what have you seen on the ceasefire this week?
I think it's interesting. Happened so fast. But this is always the cycle.
What do you mean?
I mean, how many times have they done this in the last 20 years?
I don't know.
Right? So it's really hard for me to take it seriously when they're like, ceasefire for real this time. Okay, how is this time different than the last 18 plus? Like, what's different this time? There's nothing different. It's just not going to change.
Yeah, and I really don't think that Biden had anything to do with this either. It's, we're sitting here, people are dying left and right on both sides at this point, and we do get to a point where you just see so many body bags that you're like, okay, this has got to be enough at some point. We keep doing this, we'll destroy ourselves in some of this. And I think both sides have looked at this. And I think there's a little bit more common ground.
I think they both realize that, but at the same time, like, I feel like the citizens realize that. The governments don't give a shit.
Yeah. This was the one that I wanted originally. I want to see if there's any details in this one here. Let's see. Israel's security cabinet voted on Thursday to approve a tentative ceasefire after 11... No, I'm not going to support you, CNBC. After 11 days of fighting with Hamas in Israel and Gaza Strip, raising hopes that the worst violence in years was nearing an end. Speaking to the Arabic TV network Al Mayadeen, Hamas officials said the group obtained guarantees from the mediators that Israeli airstrikes on Gaza would be halted. The ceasefire began at 2 a.m. Friday local time. U.S. President Joe Biden, in an address shortly after 6 p.m. Eastern Time Thursday, said he was informed by Prime Minister Netanyahu that Israel had agreed to a mutual unconditional ceasefire to begin in less than 2 hours. So, who knows how long this is going to be, and this is probably going to continue to go on. But there are a couple interesting things that went on with this, including the second time that I agreed with AOC this week. And that is the fact that AOC decided that her and Bernie Sanders in both chambers were raising bills to stop the sale of arms that was supposed to be happening to the Israelis. Did you see anything on this?
No, I didn't.
Oh. Both of them decided to. I don't know if it actually went through or not, because they stopped talking about this after the ceasefire completely. So I don't even know if the arms sale went through, but both Bernie and AOC introduced legislation. What do you think of that?
Yeah, they didn't block the arms sale. Biden signed it. It was $300 and something million.
It was $745 million.
That's right. We talked about that last week. No, I'm pretty sure it went through.
Okay. So, what do you think about the fact that you could agree with the position with AOC Biscuit on that? I don't think we should be selling arms to any of them, to be completely honest.
True anti-war Democrats are really hard to come by, and I don't really consider Bernie or AOC a Democrat. I think they're more socialists, and that's the party that they would belong to if it was viable. But they are consistent. They are consistently anti-war, for the most part.
I had one other event that was going on this week. So we saw the ceasefire, the drawdown, but that hasn't happened around the world. And in various other places and various other cities around the world, we have seen violence erupt from both sides, pro-Israeli sides and pro-Palestinian sides, in the name of their specified sides, including this video that came out of New York, that came to me via Faller for it over on Twitter. Let's have a look at that. Just a sec. There we go. So portrayed in this 7-second video was pro-Palestinian protesters shooting fireworks off at New York City Jews. And we're seeing a lot of this going in both directions around the world. And honestly, that makes me nervous that this ceasefire won't last just because of that.
I don't know.
How long do you think it'll last?
Who knows? It's unpredictable. It's different every time.
It is. Our big sandbox over there that we're going to stay in forever is probably going to be another one too. So,
pretty much.
Let's talk a bit about the Supreme Court this week. So let me grab a couple articles up here for you, because there are a couple big ones that are popping up that I think we need to talk about. One is this one that's coming out of, I believe it's Mississippi. Let's read from the Associated Press. The Supreme Court agreed Monday to a showdown over abortion case that could dramatically alter nearly 50 years of rulings on abortion rights. And of course they have to mention the fact that 3 of these justices were appointed by Trump, which means to the kitchen with you, chained up in your red and white bonnets. With 3 justices appointed by President Trump as part of a 6-3 conservative majority, the court is taking on a case about whether states can ban abortions before a fetus can survive outside the womb. Mississippi, which is asking to be allowed to enforce abortion bans after 15 weeks of pregnancy, is not asking the court to overrule the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision confirming a woman's right to an abortion, or a decision 19 years later that reaffirmed it. But abortion rights supporters say the case is a clear threat to abortion rights. The court cannot uphold the law without overturning the principal protections of Roe v. Wade, Nancy Northup, the president and CEO of Center for Reproductive Rights, said in a call with reporters. And this is interesting because, a lot of people are coming out with the propaganda that if this goes through, that this will mean the end to abortion for everybody. But it looks like Mississippi is trying to push this back to be a states' rights issue.
And I can't blame them for that. I mean, I think that if you are going to try to pass a law like that, then you do it under the basis of states' rights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we see so many decisions like Roe versus Wade that nationalize things that really aren't supposed to be nationalized to begin with.
Right.
Wasn't the purview of the 10th Amendment that anything not expressly mentioned in the above is supposed to be deferred to the states anyway?
Yes, and one of our viewers pointed that out in the live chat too.
So they've agreed to hear this. I'm not sure where this is going to go. I know everybody's coming out right now and asking who paid Kavanaugh's debts, because they think he's going to be this magical Trump for anti... Brett Kavanaugh was never pro-life. I don't know where the fuck they got that from other than the propaganda. He's pro-court precedent. He has never once been pro-life by anything I've ever seen come out of him. Unless you've seen something different.
No, I mean... Yeah, no. Nothing that I can think of.
He turned away the last abortion case that came up. He said, no, this is settled precedent. Move along. I don't think this is going to go the way that progressives are trying to scare people into thinking it's going to go. I don't think it's going to go that way at all. I do want to ask you, because you biologically know more about this than I do. I've heard people talk about, and you've had a kid, that you don't even know until 15 weeks or later. Is that...
No, that is a total lie.
Okay.
I mean, there's those shows out there where women are like, they didn't know that they were pregnant, and they go into the hospital, they have stomach pain or they have back pain or whatever, and boop, out comes the baby, and they're like, oh, what happened? That does happen. It can happen. Like, it can. I've known women who knew they were pregnant, only gained maybe 20 pounds, maybe. And they were showing, but they were also wearing clothing that made it more obvious. Whereas if you deliberately try to downplay it and wear clothing that makes it not look obvious, that you might not be able to tell that they were pregnant. So I don't know. It's possible to not know that you're pregnant for the entire pregnancy, but I could tell something was different by, I think I tested at 6 weeks.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I am. I better go figure that out.
I mean, and I've heard stories, like, it's thankfully never happened to me at this point, but I've heard stories of women who've rolled over in the afterglow and said, well, I'm pregnant now.
I mean, yeah, but how much of that is just kind of hyperbole, like them just being goofy and then being like, oh yeah, that one time it actually was true. So it must be true, you know? But
Yeah.
no, I think, yeah, you can tell that something is different pretty early on if you know that the possibility exists. Now, if you don't think the possibility exists, like if you are on birth control and you're just going about your life and you think that, like, well, yeah, I'm on birth control, there's no way that that could happen. You wouldn't think that a morning of nausea or having a stomach ache or something like that would be pregnancy related. You might not think that might not be the first place that your mind goes.
Right. In the other big case that I want to touch on here, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously on Monday, and you don't see unanimous decisions from the Supreme Court unless it's a big, big thing. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously on Monday against warrantless searches by police and seizures in the home in a case brought by a man whose guns officers confiscated after he laid his unloaded gun on the table and said, why don't you just kill me then?
Yep.
So that case is over at this point, and this is one that really beats down the idea of what could possibly happen with red flag laws, because that is a warrantless seizure at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And that deals a death blow to a lot of red flag laws that states are trying to pass, I would think.
Yes, I think so. I hope so. I mean, I hope that it's not going to stop all of them. I think states like New York and California will still try, but there's no way that someone in their right mind can look at that ruling and pass a red flag law in their state and think it's going to stand, think it's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, and that they're not going to rule against it.
Yeah, so absolutely. I'm excited for this. I really am. Because I've been looking at some of the things that they've been trying to pass out there, like the red flag law, where you're just basically bypassing Fourth and Fifth Amendment. Fuck, who needs those? And anybody can call in. Like, you can get your blue-haired 19-year-old college student niece with a great big septum piercing and big gauged ears who gets in an argument with her conservative uncle, and all of a sudden, hey, I think my conservative uncle's going to hurt himself. You better go and take his guns.
Yeah.
And that was my big worry with the red flag laws to begin with. So, good on them. Let's talk about the Nordstrom Pipeline, because that piqued my interest this week. So, according to Politico, the Biden admin is to waive sanctions for the head of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
Okay.
Which makes Mr. Vladimir Putin probably very happy, because he's probably going to get very, very rich selling natural gas to Germany.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
The Biden admin plans to waive sanctions against an ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin, who heads the company that is building the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline from Russia to Germany. Two people with knowledge of the move said on Tuesday. The move to invoke a national security waiver for penalties targeting the company, Nord Stream 2 AG, and its head, Matthias Wardig, will be included in a report on Russian sanctions the State Department plans to deliver to Congress on Wednesday, according to two people. Two people are, of course, unnamed, but...
They're always unnamed.
Politico had reported in April that the administration had reversed a Justice Department decision that gave legal approval to place sanctions to Warning amid an ongoing internal debate over which entities meet the threshold for sanctions. Warning is also deputy chair of the board of directors for Russian oil company Rosneft. Just do a little thought experiment for me. Replace
Okay.
Joe Biden with somebody who's 100 pounds heavier than him, orange, with a bad comb over. And tell me what the news media is doing. When we lift sanctions from a Russian pipeline.
Right. They probably melted down.
Yes. And it's interesting to me that nobody... Like, I had to dig. I had people talking in the Articles Worth investigation last summer before you came onto the show to even find anything to talk about on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Because nobody was reporting the fact that the Trump administration was putting massive sanctions on them to keep them from selling to Europe, who Trump wanted us to be selling the stuff to. And it's going to be easier and more environmental, obviously, for Russia to do that, but it's also going to be a big fucking payday for Russia if they're the ones that's supplying the natural gas to all of the EU at this point. It's going to come in through Germany, but it's going to go through the entire EU. That's going to be very, very profitable to them. And I mean, you just handed the guy who's supposedly the most evil person in the world, who ended our semblance of normal elections, and I can't even think of other hyperbole we can talk about with this. You just handed him a great big present.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's got a big red bow on it, too.
What do you think of this? I mean, you're more free market than I am, I think.
Yeah,
Internationally.
very pro-free market.
Internationally, anyway.
I mean, I don't know.
I want the energy to be cheap, no matter how it is. But I also know that this is probably going to make Russia very, very rich.
The problem with saying things like, I don't care as long as I have cheap oil, that opens the door for really bad things to be justified because it's cheap. And I can't be on board with that.
I'm not saying I don't care how the energy is cheap.
There has to be a floor. There has to be a minimum here.
Oh, I'm not saying I don't care how the energy is cheap. I just want it to be cheap. And there are standards that I would set for that, though. And making Putin rich, I don't think that's completely worth it.
Right.
Well, I thought that was very interesting over the fact that, everybody else is coming out and nobody's saying a word about the fact that Biden's doing it. But if Trump did it, oh boy, would we ever be into this. Let's talk about Epstein, who totally managed to kill himself by hanging himself and doing a backflip off of his bunk and, all this other fun stuff. Mm-hmm. So the Associated Press reported this week that the Epstein, this was actually over the weekend, the two guards who were in charge of reporting for the Epstein case are skirting jail time right now in a deal with prosecutors. Yes. And every time you see all those words together, you know something shady went on.
Oh, absolutely. They were supposedly napping and browsing the internet and eating food. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is. The prison workers, Tova Noel and Michael Thomas, were accused of sleeping and browsing the internet instead of monitoring Epstein the night he took his own life. Completely took his own life in August of 2019. They were charged with lying on prison records to make it seem as though they had made the required checks on the financier before he was found in his cell. New York City's medical examiner ruled Epstein's death a suicide. Totally was. 100%.
So you have cameras that don't work on one of the most wanted men in the world, one of them. And then guards that just seemingly for no apparent reason decide that instead of guarding this very important prisoner, the VIP, they're going to just take a nap. How do these things fit together?
I don't know, but it's interesting to look at the Epstein case too off of this because, people are coming out and saying, obviously, initially, what's the first thing they say? Oh, it was Clintons. The Clintons went out and got him. I don't know if it was even the Clintons at this point.
I don't either. I think I think it's people that are more untouchable than the Clintons.
I don't even think we would have to go that far. You look at the list of people who were on there, big billionaires that all went to Lolita Island, and of course the left all runs out and says, well, Donald went out and he went. No, he didn't. He was never on that flight log. He took Epstein's plane from one place to New York City, and then he kicked him out of the fucking club. But regardless, there's still a list miles long of prominent left-wing people, mostly left-wing people, artists, singers, actors, financiers, billionaires, hedge fund managers, not millions of people, thousands of people who've gone to this island who have just as much of a reason to make this guy disappear as the Clintons.
And it definitely wouldn't be somebody that is as high profile as the Clintons either. It would be someone that the average person doesn't know exists. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't know them. Because they're not newsworthy. They're not, their name doesn't get run in the New York Times and things like that. Or maybe they do, I guess it's possible. But it's not somebody that everyone's going to recognize. Like, oh, that's that guy that I always see on that TV show, or that's that person that's always in Congress or whatever. It's not going to be someone like that. No, I don't know, Ben. It's going to be somebody who is more unknown than Bill Gates. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be somebody that people know. It's going to be somebody that all of those kind of people hang out with, but that we don't know. The average person does not know.
Yeah. So, yeah, with that, he totally killed himself, though. Absolutely. Don't ban me, Susan. So there's that. Do you want to take, I know we probably shouldn't go through everything because we got just a couple other things to get through here. Do you want to take 5 minutes of live chat?
Sure, let's do it. I gotta scroll up and find my spot.
Yeah, because I know on the YouTube side they actually have a way that you can mark it. I just don't know there's one on Restreams.
Okay. Thomas says, are these districts getting a first-round draft pick? I think he means Greater Idaho.
Yeah.
Thomas says, one of the immutable facts of life, government is not in the problem-solving business. We're more likely to get to the bottom of 1/6 by playing Clue. Probably.
I haven't played Clue in forever.
I love Clue. I love the movie Clue.
I don't even have to say it. You already know.
You haven't seen the movie?
I haven't seen the movie. I wasn't even aware there was a movie until 3 years ago.
I literally posted about it yesterday.
Yesterday wasn't 3 years ago.
Yes.
I just found out there was a movie 3 years ago.
Yeah. You're wild. But you need to watch more movies. Eric says, an excuse for government to dig around and try to find and eradicate right-wing networks. Wouldn't be the first time they tried that. They used the IRS to do it a few years ago. Right-wing in the eye of the beholder, of course. The scientific term for this is beating a dead horse. Thank you, Ben. Greg says, it's the American way. Focus on things that don't matter. Throw a ton of money at it and keep control.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. Thomas says, you sound like Will Ferrell doing a super Dave Osborne impression.
I don't remember what impression I did.
Spartan says they used the insurrection as an excuse to let Biden win, which is weird as hell. I think it was your moon.
Oh.
That's where the Antifa infiltration comes. Yeah, no, we've already debunked that.
Debunked!
Yeah, many, many times over. Spartan said, the founding fathers would elect me as Emperor of Earth. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they would not. Number one, emperors don't get elected, and two, they would definitely not do that.
But that's not true. Palpatine got elected.
As a senator,
He was
appointed
elected
himself-
chancellor, too.
He appointed himself emperor.
No, he got elected chancellor. He got elected
I
to be
also
chancellor.
meant real life, not Star Wars.
Still counts.
Jeff says he can't listen this fast. Holy shit, slow down. I don't know what was so fast, but okay. Ben said, how is it the Hamas can go down to the local wherever and buy rockets and I can't get a box of 3060? 30-06. Sorry, I transposed that. I was like, 3060, what? Oh, I know what that is. Linda says, love, not war. Love is the answer. Eric replied to Ed, one of Ed's earlier comments, and said, exactly, that's why Black Lives Matter. Government shouldn't be killing often unarmed, innocent until proven guilty, tax-paying citizens. Battle is a different story.
Yeah.
I don't know what that refers to, but I'll look at Twitter, or I'll look at Facebook later and figure it out. What is the libertarian concern with a family feud overseas? There isn't one. We don't want to be part of it. It's unfortunate, but we don't want to be part of it.
Especially over there, that whole patch of sand is just 4,000 years of war in the making.
Pretty much. But so is Europe.
Yeah. That's fair.
They just do it over monarchies. Well, and they do it over religion too.
All right, you want to mark your place and let's finish out with the rest of the stuff?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right. So let's talk a bit about the McDonald's thing. So this week, McDonald's, no, it was actually last week they announced it, but this week is the week that we get the protests out of it. McDonald's has announced that they are moving to an $11 an hour minimum wage with the intent to get to $15 an hour by 2024. Now, this provision only works for corporate stores, which makes up less than 5% of the organization. The majority of the stores are franchisees, which means that, to be a McDonald's franchisee, they've got massive conditions for that. You have to have like $1 million in the bank, not assets. You have to let like $1 million in the bank for McDonald's to say, yes, we will sell you a franchise. But even still, that's for a small business, that's going to be difficult to do. So the small businesses can still pay their minimum wage requirements. Of course, still have to stand. They can't just pay whoever whatever they want, but they're still coming out there buying from McDonald's. Well, the McDonald's workers are not happy about this, and they went on to protest in 115 cities across the country in yet another Fight for 15 protests, the likes of which we've been seeing since the minimum wage was raised to $7.25. Did you see any of these protests this week?
I didn't see these this week, but I wonder what the end game is here, unless it's just to pressure the franchisees to raise their minimum wage too.
Well, yeah, that's what they're going for. They're trying to get the franchisees to rate, and that's one of the things that keeps coming back out of this is the people at the protests are saying, well, McDonald's has all this money. They can pay all their employees $15 an hour. Well, you're not working for McDonald's.
No, they cannot. No, they cannot. People that make this argument drive me absolutely up the fucking wall. And I will tell you why. Because when you have a company that is that large, one, the franchisees are not like Jeff Bezos. They're not billionaires with all this money. Franchisees make a good living, but it's not that much, like comparatively to people who they think of as like really, really wealthy. Mm-hmm. So I've seen this all over the internet. People are like, well, if the CEO wasn't being paid $15 million a year, then they could afford to pay everyone $15 an hour. The truth is, that's not even remotely true. Because most of the time they have so many employees that even if you took their salary down to $1 million a year instead of like 15 million a year, a lot of the companies I've seen people say this stuff about, like Walmart or Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, they have like 70,000+ employees. So when you do the math and you spread that out, you spread the wealth, it literally ends up being like a 9 cent an hour raise. That's it. Not $9, not even $2, not even $1. It ends up being a 9 cent raise per hour.
Right. And that
That's
is also,
nothing.
and that was also the side of it. Yeah, McDonald's can afford to pay their corporate employees, the employees in their corporate stores. They can afford to pay them all $15 an hour, but that's less than 5% of McDonald's employees across the country. Keep that in mind. That's just the corporate stores.
Mm-hmm.
And your usual suspects got on board with these strikes this week. Bernie Sanders is joining striking McDonald's workers, demanding higher wages ahead of the chain's annual investors meeting. I don't know if it says where they're doing this. It was Walkout Wednesday. Employees in 15 cities will go on strike to demand all McDonald's workers make at least $15 an hour. Everybody's favorite, not Jersey. That's what I call it. Brooklyn Dad Defiant was out there saying, "Don't cross that picket line. Don't you dare cross that picket line. Make these people pay. Make these rich people pay." Which goes back to the argument that you just made off of this.
Yeah. They're not that rich. And 2, it's not going to be a worthwhile raise.
Mm-hmm. And also, Susan Sarandon and AOC got into this as well. Reading briefly from Fox Business, actress Susan Sarandon Actress Susan Sarandon and prominent progressive lawmakers were among those who expressed support Wednesday for McDonald's workers who staged strikes in cities across the country in a push for higher hourly wages. Susan Sarandon tweets out, "McDonald's workers are on strike. Don't cross picket lines." 5 for 15 says fast food workers across the country are on strike today to demand McDonald's, the bottom of the barrel industry leader, pay every one of their workers $15 now. Workers are demanding fair pay and standards. Add your voice. There are more jobs out there.
Do you want $15 McDonald's burgers? Because that's how you get it.
Yeah. Not to mention, why are you staying at McDonald's? With all these jobs that are out there that are begging for workers.
Yep.
That's the other thing that drives me nuts. We actually didn't see it much during the Trump presidency because there was always the 7 million unfilled jobs throughout the presidency, and there are more now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These people are begging for workers, and they will pay whatever it takes. It's not just McDonald's.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Retail stores, businesses, factories,
Yep.
hospitals.
They're becoming more desperate, and that could put them in a tricky situation. Like as far as wage negotiations.
Yeah, and it's
Most companies have a minimum that they have to, like if it's not a small business or a business that's controlled by a couple of people, like a mom and pop thing where they're pretty flexible with wages. If it's a corporation like Walmart, Hobby Lobby, anything retail like that, any big box store, Kohl's, Penny's, anything like that, they all have standard wages that they start you at if you're a store associate or one step higher, which is like a department head and then like a manager, shift manager, whatever. They all have standard rates of pay for those positions. So if they're desperate for people, then that might give people applying for jobs more bargaining power to say, well,
Right.
I'm not going to work for $9 an hour for this job. And I've been in that situation where I worked retail and I was making minimum wage and they wanted me to stay and take a promotion, but it was only $9 an hour. And I had a kid and I was a single parent. And I was like, no, it's not going to work. Like, there's no way. So I went and got a different job that made $15 an hour starting. And within a couple of years, I'd gotten a raise. So They can do that. But then they're going to have an issue with employees that are currently employed making that minimum base wage, because then they're going to find out and they're going to be like, no, I'm not working for $7.25 when this person started working and they're making $9.
Mm-hmm.
I want $9 or I'm out. I'm done.
Right.
So it becomes this cycle, and it becomes a cycle. It contributes. Eventually, if it goes on long enough, it will contribute to hyperinflation, because the cost of goods will go up, the cost of labor will go up, everything will just keep going up and up and up, and it doesn't ever stop. I mean, it stops when it hits a point, and then it crashes, and that's not a good place to be in, because then everybody loses.
Yeah. Well, we will continue to watch this here, and as more states start to pull their unemployment, we're going to start some people get real interesting for how they're going to get their money. Speaking of states pulling their unemployment at this point, we got to talk just a little bit about masks and vaccinations. This week, Utah and Iowa have both passed laws banning schools from having mask mandates. Did you see anything of that this week?
I did.
What's your take on that?
Kind of a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
Like, on the one hand, am I happy? Do I feel like it's a victory? Yes. But on the other hand, I feel like that takes away a district's choice or a school's choice to make those decisions. And I think that as long as the majority of the school was okay with it and wanted a policy like that to be in place, there's no harm in letting them have it. You know, it's their choice. But on the other hand, I don't like the slippery slope that starts.
Yeah. And there is that, but I mean, people are starting to push back. And okay, last summer, I could understand where people were getting into this and saying, okay, well, we need to start doing this. Because we didn't know. For the most part, we were coming into summer, we were starting to know, but we really didn't know yet that this was going to be the level that it was. And I'm not going to say it was a giant nothing burger, but I'm not going to say it was what we thought it was going to be back in March either. And we were starting to see that. And there was still some worry about this. So, I mean, last summer, I could see people wanting to wear the mask, but, you know, it's getting hot out. It's been 80 degrees every day in Wisconsin for the last 8 days. People don't want to wear a mask in that. And they know that people aren't dying at the level that we thought. We're not stacking bodies.
No, not anymore. It's getting weaker. The number of times that it goes around, the virus goes around, it gets weaker every round, just like the flu.
I wanted to play this this clip here from this 10-year-old boy, which I'm a little bit against using a kid to bring your measurement, and I know he didn't write the speech either, but he was eloquent about how he felt about this, and I thought it was worth at least listening to. So let's have a listen to probably about a minute of what he had to say here.
Turned 10 years old. I just turned 10 years old, and I am a 4th grader at Felix A. Williams. I expected school to be a little bit different in the beginning, but I didn't think it would stay this way all year long, and I was surprised by the rules. A lot of them didn't make any sense to me, like the fact that we were not allowed to play on the playground or have student council or turn to face each other at lunch, and we also have to wear masks outside at PE and on track. I love my school and all, but my teachers seem really stressed, and that makes me feel bad. One teacher walks around with a clipboard full of referrals for any student whose mask isn't on properly. It makes me feel scared. That same teacher yells at us having our masks down to drink water while we are outside in Carline. She told us we had to wait until we were in our parents' car to have a drink of water. She had her mask down the entire time while she was yelling at us, which makes me and all my friends very mad. This happens a lot. And it seems unfair teachers take their masks off while they yell at us kids and that we need to pull ours up. I asked my mom if there's a word for this, and she said there is. Hypocrisy. Wearing a mask all day makes me feel really tired and gives me really bad headaches. Sometimes I'm in school and I need to lay low in the dark until they're gone. My mask also sticks to my face when it's really hot, and it makes it hard to breathe. I feel like I can't catch my breath, and that makes me feel claustrophobic and anxious. It's really stressful. I finished taking all of my FSAs, and I had a hard time focusing with a mask on. A few weeks ago, I ran into my teacher outside of school. She didn't even recognize me because she's never seen my face before. But I knew it was her because she sits at her desk a lot without a mask on. I know my teacher has asthma and everything, but I understand why it's hard for her to wear a mask, and I think she should have that choice. But I should too. I have allergies, and I feel really anxious with my face covered. But I'm not allowed a mask break like her. It seems unfair. All this seems unfair, and it doesn't make sense.
All right, that's where I'm going to drop that off there. But go ahead.
That is a very articulate 10-year-old. And it sounds like he was prepped.
Yeah, absolutely was.
That said, he makes some very good points.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so hard. It's so hard having a kid that has to wear a mask to school every day. I'm sure it's hard for the teachers too. Every district is different. Every district is handling this different. I've actually been fairly okay with how my son's district is handling it. They do get mask breaks during the day. They're kind of separated into different zones at recess. Like there's a playground zone and then a blacktop zone where they can play basketball or soccer or something like that. And then there's a open grassy area zone where they can run around, and they just limit the number of students in those spaces so that they have enough space to move and they're not all crammed together. That's okay with me. They do take mask breaks during the day, like I said, but it does cause issues, and they're not always apparent at first. I realized halfway through the year that some of my son's anxiety and social emotional issues that he was having at school were due to his difficulty that he has in interpreting social situations was made more difficult by the fact that he was attempting to interpret these social situations while someone's face is half covered like this.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it that much harder to read body language, to read tone, to be able to just get the full sense of what someone is saying. So I get it. I see it from both sides.
Yeah. Well, that's all well and good, and I do, it is coming to a point of freedom, and I will never begrudge somebody who is out there who thinks that's the best way to protect themselves. That's their choice. I might make fun of them a little bit because I think it's kind of stupid and sheepish, but if that's the way that they feel that's the best way to protect themselves and the people around them, then do that. I don't think that's the best way to protect myself and the people around me, so I don't wear it. And that's exactly where it is. And like I said, the kid, he wasn't recognized by his teacher because she's never seen his face. The other one that's been happening this week is there's been a lot of debunk and a lot of chatter about the vaccines, the vaccination, and everything else. And the first thing I want to do is we do have to throw some F's up in the chat because the Twitter police got our mutual friend, Freckled Liberty. Did you see up on the screen?
Yeah.
We understand that during times of crisis and instability, it's difficult to know what to do to keep yourself or your loved ones safe. Under this policy, we require the removal of content that may pose a risk to people's health, including content that goes directly against guidance from the authoritative sources of global and local public health information. That was the reason that they got for putting her into Twitmo for 12 hours over this tweet, which reads, "I'm fully vaxxed except the COVID vax and flu shot. Wanting to know what's the side effects and long-term effects of a vaccine are before taking it. Is an anti-vax. It's responsible. What is entitled is you demanding I put other people's health before my own and take this experimental vax." Which I'm sure with her, and I've read some of her tweets, she is getting mass reported left and fucking right. So
that happens a lot.
This was an eventuality that I knew was going to be coming at some point. But there's a lot of other conversation that goes along with that around the mask, the vax, and everything else. I know that we've seen some I said debunking videos and articles off of this. I read from the Associated Press that the Associated Press is coming out saying, no, the vaccines don't make you shed spike proteins. That's a complete myth, and you shouldn't be talking about that. And I know people are saying that, and a lot of the MAGA people who were actually most excited to get this vaccine when Donald started talking about it, they were all excited to get this thing. And then when Biden started talking about it, they weren't excited for it anymore. And really, honestly, it's the same thing, that kind of the way that I go with it too. I was actually excited for the vaccine. I was going to go get it because the free market got everything out of the way. This is how the free market was supposed to work. I was going to wait 6 months to see what would happen for people.
Mm-hmm.
But then they started throwing that M word around, like, keep your vaccine. If you have to mandate it for me to take it, you keep the fucking thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so far it's been individual employers and schools and things like that that have mandated the vaccine. But I don't trust that it won't be mandated in certain states.
Mm-hmm. But they're also trying to put social pressure on this. I had one last week that we didn't wind up getting around to, where Cam Harless had retweeted, and I had the picture. I deleted the picture out of here accidentally for this week. But, they're talking about going into the bars and offering the vaccine at bars because you're around your friends.
Creepy.
There's the social pressure, and your inhibitions are lowered.
Yeah, that's creepy. So my response to that was the same as a lot of people's. If you're drunk enough to not be able to consent to sex, then you're not able to consent to a vaccine either. And how do you determine that?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not having them blow in a breathalyzer, how do you know that they're actually giving informed consent?
That was your response to it. My response to it was I played the opening bars of Sublime's Date Rape.
Yeah, and also basically, go away. Screw yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, what happens when somebody tries to stick something in you when your inhibitions are lowered? What was it that they said? The subject of that song now takes it in the behind. I think I think that's a good penalty for people who try to take advantage of people whose inhibitions are lowered. In other news with this here, this one came into us from the Discord. Forbes reports, swipe right for vaccines. White House partners with popular dating apps to promote COVID-19 shots.
No. See, oh my gosh. The COVID vaccine phenomenon on dating apps is the most annoying thing I have ever seen. And
You're
I'm so
free
glad that
from
I
the
don't have to
dating
deal
pool.
with it.
I'm still there. So you don't even get to see this shit firsthand anymore.
I'm so glad. I can't tell you how glad I am.
Yes, and the fact that the White House is partnering with it, that's what bothers me the most out of it. Like, if the free market comes out, you can, still, once again, okay, well, the free market is saying this, it's still bullshit, but, we're still here. But now that the White House is coming in with this, that bothers me to all kinds of extents. And I haven't seen anything like that on anything that I've used, but even still, the fact that the government is coming in to try and come through with my dating life and tell me what it is that I need to do and don't need to do in order to have a dating life, fuck you. That's just as bad as trying to do that shit in the bar.
Yep.
So, yeah, I thought you might enjoy that. Other than that, do you see anything else about the vaccine thing or masks or anything else around here? Because I got one more for you, but it has nothing to do with any of that.
Okay.
You got anything else to go with on this?
No, I'm good. I've said all I can say.
You ready to hear somebody that wound up in something stupid?
Yes. Please.
Okay. Also reading from Forbes this week for surprise stupidity. Robinhood trader may face $800,000 tax bill.
Who, what?
Robinhood trader may face $800,000 tax bill. Over 8 million people opened new brokerage accounts in the first 3 quarters of 2020, which we're probably going to see this again later on this year with all the GameStop stuff. We're probably going to see some of this stuff. While the thrill of enormous stock gains may have provided a much-needed distraction for some during the pandemic, unintended tax consequences are now manifesting for new investors. In one jaw-dropping case, a Robinhood newbie is facing a potential tax bill of $800,000 despite only making $45,000 in net trading profits. The individual also earned $60,000 at his day job. The example reinforces the importance of understanding the complex trading rules and the tax implications of certain strategies more broadly. It should serve as a loud warning for the new crop of do-it-yourself investors. There's a reason that I haven't turned my Doge back into fucking cash yet. Because I would probably get my ass slapped in the same way.
Nice.
The case of the Robinhood trader, who hasn't been identified, was first highlighted in Morningstar by Alexandra McQueen. She described how Brian Ruck, a financial planner, received a text from the 30-year-old investor who was facing an $800,000 tax bill. Like many, the investor who works full-time in insurance opened a new brokerage account in 2020 and quickly scaled his trading. He had between $200,000 and $2 million in trading volume per day, completing between 10 and 50 trades daily according to Morningstar. Ruck also appeared to share some anecdote in multiple forums, including one for the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, which was posted on Twitter. In the post, Ruck describes the situation. Young man calls me and says he opened up a brokerage account with $30K in 2020. He transacted $45 million, yes million, in total trades for a net profit of $45,000 by year ends. I'm sorry, if you've transacted $45 million and you only have $45,000 of profits, you did something wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
He received his 1099-B and then put in a TurboTax, which was probably his mistake, and to his chagrin, he had $1.4 million in capital gain income and a tax bill of just over $800,000. If you are transacting that much money over the course of a year, hire an accountant.
Yes.
Who is
definitely.
bonded.
Mm-hmm.
I make significantly less than that a year, and I don't do my own taxes, and I read the tax code front to back every year, and I still go to the same lady who used to have an office in Kenosha and doesn't anymore, but she still does my taxes off to the side. Because she is bonded, she knows the law better than I do. What's your take on this?
I think it's funny.
I thought you might. I thought you might enjoy that. The government's going to get their money no matter what. And I'm sure that, this guy, if this guy went out and actually hired a tax consultant, even H&R Block would probably get that knocked down a little bit. I wouldn't go there either, but even they would probably get that knocked down to 10,000 or something like that. But it is what it is, and I bet you we see a lot more of these stories next year. To the moon. To the moon,
To the moon.
All right, that's all I have for you.
Sounds good.
What is our audience saying?
They're talking about the Indy 500, which is this coming weekend, friends. All right, let me get to where we left off. All right. Clint says, you bet the arms deal went through. Vampire
That's
Hunter
Israel.
says, billions in arms won't be affected by AOC. Spartan says, IPAC would be illegal if it was any other country doing the same thing. Absolutely true. Abortion is the issue that never ends. Yep, pretty much.
No, that's going to be an election issue for the next 75 years or more.
Yep, always is. It's a fear thing. It's very effective. Ben says, okay, Naked and Afraid, DC edition. You have AOC and Biden dropped into a real swamp with just a pair of nail clippers. Who makes it out? I say AOC just because of her age.
I think that people should redistribute me the nail clippers and the other weapons so that I can possibly have a chance to survive.
It's AOC and Biden, not AOC and Bernie.
Oh, I thought it was Bernie.
No.
Come on, man.
Ben says he's pro mean tweets. I think he means Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
And we're talking about abortion again. Ben says Tinder needs red flag laws or at least guidelines that keep people our 10 cats crazy from being released on the dating population.
I think he means keep people who are 10 cats crazy.
Agent 2159 said, speaking from experience, Ben, better they have cats than children. I mean, kids are pretty cool, but 10 is not cool. At least not for me. I'm good.
I do want to raise one to Ben. I will take your 10 cats crazy and raise you 93 geckos crazy.
Yep, I knew that was coming. I knew it.
You've heard that horror story.
Uh-huh. It is a horror story. Bye, Ed. He left a little while ago. Thomas says Mussolini made the trains run on time. It doesn't make him any less of a scumbag. That is very true.
Very dark, but very true.
Yeah. Linda said 2-hour naps. She also wants to know who owns the islands around Epstein.
Couldn't tell you.
No idea. Live chat put a bird on it. I don't know what that means.
Couldn't tell you.
Agent says, Ed, do we need to have a Star Wars debate?
I will stand by it. Jar Jar appointed him.
We're
To
not
get
going
elected.
there. We're not going there. Stop. Don't start. Shouldn't McDonald's focus on, I don't know, making burgers, copious amounts of bacon, like 15 slices of bacon and a pickle chip for balance? Thank you, Ben. I do like that take. They could stop working at McDonald's and start hooking and solve the whole problem. Yikes.
Well, somebody else said hookers make $100 an hour, so I've heard, so there's that. Dude, if you're getting a hooker for $100 an hour, you're getting crabs and carjacked.
Yeah, definitely. Linda said she did not get sick until her grandson went back to school. Eric said elected representatives made the call on schools. He headed out too. Hi, friends. Bye, friends. And then we went to Indy 500 talk. Because Agent mentioned living in Indiana. I live in Indiana too, you guys.
I never liked Indy.
Huh?
When I was in motor racing, I was never into open wheel. I liked NASCAR, stock car. I liked funny car too, but open wheel was never my thing.
I like it better than NASCAR. But I still don't like it very much. Like, not enough to watch it. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. They're all just picking drivers for the 500 now.
Oh. I like Agent 2159's take. Jar Jar was still a better senator than Ted Cruz. Misa's so happy to hear that. Jar Jar was such a fucking stereotype. It's crazy. And they got away with it back at that time period, too.
What was he a stereotype of?
Where do we start? This is not, at the end of the show, this is not a debate to start up. But yeah, he was definitely a stereotype.
Okay,
So,
well, we're going to have a Star Wars episode then.
I'm down. Except I've never seen Rise of Skywalker.
Just watch all of them. And the ones that you haven't seen, just watch them.
I've seen
just
the
so you
rest
have
of
the
them.
full picture.
Dude, I can't though.
Yes, you can.
I can't. It's
I
horrifying
promise.
what they did to the franchise.
Just watch it. Because then you can be vindicated.
I'm vindicated anyway. All right, well, with that note, I'm going to put the end of the show up here. So thanks everybody who came by and chatted with us in the live chat, kept us honest, kept us on point, and kept us going on with everything else there is. And thank you for your hot takes. I also want to thank Linda Cloud, too, for another chat that got missed off of there, because she has faith that I'm cute and that the very clever lady will be coming into my life at some point. I don't see it, but hey, maybe it'll happen. So we'll see what happens with that. But other than that, yeah, if you want to go and finish the conversation with us, you have seen links in the live chat throughout the day for the Discord, the Gilded, or you can follow me over on Twitter. That is at EdsBlog Twitter with a 1 in place of the I. My wonderful co-hostess over on Twitter at Libertarian Red 1. Go and follow both of us and go and hang out with us, have the conversation, and come and join us. You can also find ways to support us in the chat. Buy me a coffee. What else do we have? Wow, I'm a little bit fried here right now. We have your Patreon, my Subscribe Star. You can go hang out with us and chat with us over there. Give us a little bit of money if you think we do a good job. Help us out and help us build new stuff. I will be back here tomorrow morning for more contemporary, so you can come and hang out in the live chat there and come and hang out with fellow Ed Heads over there. Otherwise, you will be gone next weekend, so we will not see you next weekend. I don't know who we've got on deck for that, but we will discuss that a little bit off mic. But I'll be back here next week as well for more of the Red and Ed show with a mystery guest host. So come and hang out with us there and discuss more of the news. Definitely looking forward to that. So come back. Otherwise, you can go find us if you're just catching up now over on YouTube and over on BitChute.com. Both of those are linked in the description on the YouTube channel, so you can go check that out over there. They're also in the Facebook feeds. So you can go check us out there. You can check us out on many other platforms. Once I get the audio back up, promise we're going to do that, especially once the new computer gets built up. That's coming up in the near future too. So look forward to us having some better production values as well. And lastly, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Elaine, lead them out for the week. For the 2 weeks for you.
Yeah, for 2 weeks. So I'll be back in 2 weeks on Monday, and I hope you all have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend, and don't do anything I wouldn't do twice.
Take care, everyone.